Probably the most difficult part about being a rapper after blowing up is staying at the top. Many rappers have successfully made comebacks in their careers, whereas some have faced difficulties to do so. Whether it's not being able to keep up with the new industry trends or being completely bullied into irrelevancy, in today's video we're going to look at the rappers who, despite their best efforts, struggled in regaining their position in the spotlight. Alright, let's get into it. First on our list we got Roddy Ricch. I gotta be honest, Roddy Ricch decline was something we all saw coming but didn't want to happen. And let me make it clear before you guys get onto me in the comments. Roddy Ricch hasn't completely fallen off by any means. He definitely still has the time and talent to prevail in his career, but I will say this. From the hiatus he took from releasing major hits like Rockstar and Ballin' and of course The Box, to the release of his comeback album Live Life Fast, it was definitely poorly received in comparison. Now, going back to 2019 and 2020, Roddy definitely had the rap game in a chokehold. Before this, Roddy released his album Feed the Streets featuring his breakout hit, Die Young. The song put him in the spotlight and garnered him recognition from the likes of Meek Mill, the late Nipsey Hussle, and also gave him a devoted fan base. In late 2019, Roddy Ricch dropped his debut studio album, Please Excuse Me for Being Antisocial. The album's standout track, The Box, became a massive hit, topping the Billboard Hot 100 chart for multiple weeks. The song's catchy beat, combined with Roddy's unique vocal style, solidified his position as a rising star, and the album is actually considered a classic hip-hop album. So with this in hand, he had everyone thinking, what's next for Roddy? Well, it turns out we wouldn't find out what's next until a whole 2 years later. Yeah, so it seemed like Roddy took a step back from rap, though he was still working with the other artists during 2021. I can only imagine Roddy felt immense pressure to release an even bigger song than The Box, or was just trying to perfect his craft. But unfortunately, in the world of rap, it doesn't wait for anyone.
It's an evil world we live in.
And this is something Roddy acknowledges himself.
A steady incline is the best thing. I don't like to talk about like in the perspective of just rapping. I talk about just like in life. A steady incline is the best thing. It just in general, like you never want to rise to the top too fast in anything, because usually when you get to the top, there's no other way to go but down.
Right.
So,
and Live Life Fast wasn't a bad album at all. It's just the literal definition of mid. Selling 62k first week, which is kind of bad in comparison to his previous album that sold 101k first week. Personally, I think the album would have done well as an EP or if he released it sooner, but fans just thought the album was whack compared to the body of work Roddy brought out before. The problem comes in when the bar has been set so high and you made fans wait for your music. Listeners are not going to hold back from being brutally honest with their opinions on the music, and this was definitely apparent when Roddy dropped a snippet of an unreleased song on an Instagram post, which faced backlash with fans saying the bars were trash and we need the 2019 Roddy back.
That kind of hurted me though, cause it's like, why would you think that?
Roddy didn't take this lightly at all and posted on his IG saying he guesses he's a flop now, then subsequently deleting all his social media. Roddy then tried going back to his old roots to give fans what they really wanted and released Feed the Streets 3 in late 2022. Though this was received better, the damage seemed to already have been done, and less fans were tuning into Roddy over time. Honestly, like I said, the fall off ain't over for Roddy. He still has time, but not a lot of it. Like his album says, life goes fast. Roddy really needs to bring something new to the table. This may be a mission, but I'm sure if Roddy stays consistent in dropping some heat, he can win back fans and listeners in no time. And the rapper who had very little time to drop heat was Bobbyshmurda. Bobby went from dropping viral raps to start shaking his hips on stage. Bobby was another rapper everybody anticipated for, though his longevity was always questioned as he was always considered a one-hit wonder up until his arrest in 2014. Yeah, so Bobby went viral with his song Hot Nigga back in 2014. The tune was global and people across the world were creating memes around the song on Vine and screaming the infamous line. However, just as Bobby was getting big, Bobby and his gang GS9 were hit with a major setback where things really got hot for Bobby. That same year, Bobby was arrested in a recording studio, and on his possession he had over 20 guns and drugs including weed and coke.
Oh my god.
The intended arrest for Bobby was actually for a RICO charge for multiple shootings in the Brooklyn area, so this only made things worse for Bobby. However, despite how bad his situation was, he had the opportunity to cooperate with the police to get less prison time if he cooperated with the police and gave up members of his GS9 crew. But like a real one, Bobby stayed silent and was handed a 7-year sentence. Many artists in the game such as Young Thug and Quavo respected Bobby for not snitching and carried the buzz of his name to the day of his release. Although this came with a price, as not snitching, not being able to release music for almost a decade, had a significant impact on his career trajectory. Despite this, many fans still patiently waited for Bobbyshmurda to return and drop some music with even more hype around his name. But instead, Bobbyshmurda came back to dropping his hips to the floor. After his release in 2021, he put out his first day out single, which is currently sitting at 18 million views on YouTube. Though this didn't do too bad, this was always going to get some love and views simply because people respected him as the real gangster that didn't snitch. But after the release, this is where the real failed comeback came into play. Fans were eager to hear more music from Bobby and question what is Bobby going to rap about now and what would the 2021 Bobby sound like. So when he released songs like Splash and Shmoney, well, the new Bobby sounded trash. I mean, his songs would be okay for radio music, but in comparison to the old gritty and hardcore sound we were used to hearing, this wasn't it.
This ain't it, Chief!
And I believe this is for several reasons. Firstly, Bobby was released in 2021, so by this time the musical landscape had changed, with new sounds and trends taking center stage. Adapting to these shifts proved to be an extreme challenge for Bobby, so after repeat offenses of releasing terrible tracks, many fans were losing hope for him. But let's get one thing straight, this wasn't entirely his fault. Due to record label problems, which is rarely talked about, Bobby wasn't able to release music when he wanted to. Not to mention, he had to follow a strict probation rules, like bro couldn't even have a drink. Deep down, we all knew when Bobby came out, it was going to be hard for him to rebuild trust and rebuild an image, but with antics like twerking on stage and making a complete U-turn with his laid-back persona, many fans ultimately gave up on him and is rarely talked about today. And from one viral rapper getting released from prison to one getting incarcerated, Fetty Wap is another rapper we all had hype for. Fetty Wap burst onto the scene in 2014 with his infectious hit Trap Queen that went platinum over 10 times, quickly becoming a chart-topping sensation. His unique sound and infectious hooks set him apart from others in the rap game. He later carried on to releasing subsequent hits such as My Way and 679. It seemed like Fetty Wap couldn't release a bad tune and was signed to 300 Entertainment in 2015. However, a string of baby mama issues, legal and management troubles led to the unfortunate downfall of Fetty Wap. Similar to Roddy Ricch, Fetty had initial high chart topping hits early in his career, so it was always going to be a challenge to outperform new songs. Surprisingly, Fetty addresses his decline by replying to a fan in 2020, stating his fall off was a result of bad business managers, greed and selfishness. He goes on to explain in an interview with Fat Joe, none of the people around him had no idea what they were doing or how to control his finances. Being in this situation is difficult for any artist, but Fetty was determined to reclaim his spotlight. He states that he got rid of all the goofy shit around him and he can focus on his music now, and he just wants to blow up again.
Rapper Fetty Wap has been sentenced to 6 years in prison. His sentence is for his role in a drug trafficking conspiracy that took place in parts of Long Island and New Jersey. Fetty Wap, whose real name is William Jr. Maxwell II, pleaded guilty in August to conspiracy to distribute and possess cocaine.
What a twist!
Now, this shocked a lot of fans and they were quite sad to see Fetty Wap turn back to the streets after going big. Fetty is actually a very talented rapper, unlike other rappers who have flopped, so it's a shame to see, due to several legal troubles, a depression and now a prison sentence, to be the brick wall for Fetty failing to make a comeback. Though as fans, it's always good to be optimistic. 5 years in hip-hop goes very quick. If Fetty can make a return to making quality music after his return, there's definitely still a chance for Fetty to make another attempt at a comeback. Before we go on, please make sure you're hitting that like and subscribe button. It really does make a difference. Alright, let's get back to it. One artist who had plenty of chances of making a comeback and still failed is jarule. Once a prominent figure in the early 2000s hip-hop scene, known for his hits like Living It Up and collaborations with artists like Ashanti and Jennifer Lopez.
Damn!
One major setback for jarule was his legal troubles. In 2007, he faced charges related to gun possession, which led to a 2-year prison sentence, and was also dodging the taxman. This hiatus from the music scene undoubtedly affected his momentum. By the time he tried to re-establish himself, the hip-hop landscape had transformed considerably. The dominant sound has shifted to more a trap-influenced beats and a different lyrical approach, making it a challenge for jarule's earlier style of melodic, R&B infused hip-hop to find the same resonance with audiences. Funnily, in his attempt to save his career with his beef with 50 Cent, was the same thing that put his career in the gutter. The beef between jarule and 50 Cent was marked by a series of diss tracks, public insults and even physical altercations. And it wasn't just a clash of personalities, it became a central storyline in both of their careers. Now, this feud wasn't all about hurt feelings, it had some real consequences for jarule's comeback plans. It created this awkward divide in the industry, making it tough for jarule to team up with artists who are rolling with 50 Cent or in his circle. That limited his chances for collabing with other artists in the game that could have given his comeback a real boost. And let's be honest, the feud became the main event, stealing the spotlight from jarule's music. Instead of being celebrated for his talent, he was kinda overshadowed by the drama. It's almost as if the music kinda took a backseat to the feud. Plus, the ongoing rivalry sort of painted jarule as the underdog in the eyes of the public. 50 Cent constant jabs and calculated moves like dropping diss tracks and keeping the feud alive in interviews and on social media made it seem like he was running the show. And whether or not this was true, the perception had a big impact on how people saw jarule. Looking back, it's clear that feud was more than just a clash of egos. It became a major distraction and stumbling block for Jarule's comeback plans. Last up, an underrated artist that's really talked about is Shyne, who, if you didn't know, once held as a Bad Boy Records promising artist under the mentorship of Sean P. Diddy Combs. Shyne saw early success with his breakout song, Bad Boys, and I guess he wasn't lying with the title of this song because just a few months into his career, Shyne was involved in a nightclub shooting in 1999 along with Diddy himself and Jennifer Lopez. Yeah, so this incident here resulted in his conviction and a lengthy prison sentence, serving nearly 9 years behind bars. Shyne's absence from the music scene had a detrimental impact on his visibility and relevance. Ultimately, Shyne didn't leave a big body of work before he got locked up for people to hold on to something. So by the time he was released in 2009, Shyne faced a vastly different musical landscape to the one he left. The hip-hop genre had undergone significant transformations with new artists and styles dominating the charts. Not to mention, after his release, Shyne faced immense pressure for his comeback. After all, he was a bad boy artist who birthed big stars like the Notorious B.I.G. and Mace. And people already compare Shyne to sounding like the late rapper, so this only made the pressure worse. Although after being released, he signed with Def Jam Records and attempted to regain his footing in the rap scene. However, his comeback faced several hurdles. Shyne released his mixtape titled Gangland in 2010, marking his return to the music scene. He dropped singles like King David and Messiah, attempting to re-establish his presence. Despite his efforts, the reception was mixed, and it became evident that regaining his early momentum would be an uphill battle. And the real problem was that the sound that he initially garnered him attention in the late 90s had evolved. Like, this is the late 90s we're talking about. The audience taste had changed accordingly with new times. Shyne's signature gritty, street-oriented lyrics couldn't compete with the new generation of artists and evolving subgenres.
Message!
Overall, it seems like prolonged prison sentence and fast evolving landscape of rap music don't go hand in hand, and is a recipe for a failed comeback. So it really brings a question for artists who faced similar predicaments but avoided it. For example, Gunna, like, what if he didn't snitch? He'd be in jail right now and he wouldn't be able to drop his biggest solo single to date. Would he still be relevant in the next 5 years if he stays silent? Or what about TK, a kid that was sentenced to over 55 years in prison? You think he can start a career after his release? Personally, I think it really comes down to two things when it comes to making a comeback. How long the hiatus was for, and do you have the talent to adapt to new times? A rapper like 42 Dog can start a career. For one, he didn't spend that much time in prison, and trap music is still a hot sound in 2023, so he can still release bangers today and people will still listen to it. In fact, we have seen artists like Gucci Mane or Kendrick make a comeback after taking a hiatus. Going back to TK, even if he was somehow to adapt to new sounds, like, no one wants to listen to an old nigga rapping about topics relatable to young adults. Like, for real, the only people gonna be bumping TK are his dedicated fans who are anticipating his release. And by the time he's released, the half of his fan base will be dead. Like, bro, some of you fans of TK are not understanding his parole officer hasn't even been born yet. But anyways, I'd love to hear your opinion on the topic. Who do you think has the biggest failed comeback and why? And do you think a rapper like Gunna or 6ix9ine would have been relevant if they didn't snitch? If you stay to the end, you're a real one. Please hit that like and subscribe button. And until next time, I'll catch you in the next video.